But it's also nice to be able to gather in this hybrid way, especially on a cold night with icy roads. So we'll start with just a nigun, a wordless melody. The words will come back in just a few minutes, but for now, to get us into the Hanukkah spirit, we simply sing Lai Lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, lai, 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 lai. Yai, la, la, yai, la, la, yai, la, 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 la. Yai, la, 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 la. Yai, la, 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 la. Yai, la, 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 la. Yai, la, 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 la. Yai, la, la,
All right. Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's so nice to see so many of you, even though we are not in person. We're home and safe and off what might be icy roads or might just be cold roads. It's hard to say what ended up happening. But it's really good to be together. As you can tell, it is dark and cold, and we are in the throes of winter. However, just this week, we had a turning point. We hit the winter solstice, and finally our days are getting longer. And it's no coincidence that Hanukkah takes place in this darkest time of year. Our ancestors wanted more light, wanted to bring more light into a world that was looking dark. And even though the days are starting to finally get longer, we have the opportunity to bring more light into our nights, bring more light onto our screens. And so what we're going to do together is, if you have your Chanukiah, if you have your Shabbat candles, we're going to get ready to light them both. But because we don't light fire on Shabbat, it's considered work. We light our menorah, our Chanukiah first, and then we will transition to lighting Shabbat, but using different matches. You know, can't have the Hanukkah candles work for you either. So anyway, we'll have a lot of light. We are on the 6th night, so we're looking at 9 candles on the screen. If you're using the flip book that we linked to in our LT email, we're on page 279 for the Hanukkah candle blessings. Right.
We kindle that shamash, that helper candle, and of course always light the newest candle first, welcoming it onto the menorah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahadlik ner shel Chanukah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asa nisim lavoteinu bayamim ahem b'zman hazeh. Ma'otzor Yeshuati L'chana v'shabeach Tikon beit תפילתי, ושם תודה נזבח, להתאכין מטבח, מצר המנבח, הזמור בשיר מזמור, חנוכת המזבח, הזמור בשיר מזמור, חנוכת המזבח. And in English, Rock of Ages, let our song praise thy saving power. Thou amidst the raging foes wast our sheltering tower. Furious they assailed us, but thine arm availed us, and thy word broke their sword when our own strength failed us, and thy word broke their sword when our own strength failed us. So beautiful. Those who are on the inside of the Zoom, to see all of your Chanukiot, to see all of your lights kindled.
And now we get to turn to Shabbat, sanctifying this holy moment. We've been in the midst of a festival, but that doesn't mean that we don't get Shabbat on top of that. So I'll invite us. Let's see. Oh, let's light our Shabbat candles if you've got them. I'm going to do it one more time, but you can start, Rabbi Franco.
So we bring in all of the light of the menorah, of the Shabbat candles, joining together in blessing the Sabbath. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu להדליק נר של Shabbat. Amen. So we lift our cups, adding a little sweetness to our Shabbat. If you have the hard book, the actual book, it's on page 123, or in the flip book, Lily.
All right, in the flip book, we're on page 5.
Join us. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho me'ahava uvratzan hinchilanu, zicharon lema'aseh bereshit. Ki hu yom techila lemekra'e kodesh, zecher letziat Mitzrayim. Ki vanu v'charta, ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim, v'shabbat kodshecha ve'ava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat. Amen. L'chaim. So we begin our service of Kabbalat Shabbat on page 131.
Or 13, if you're in your flip book, Shiru Adonai, sing unto God.
Shiru Adonai, kol haaretz. Shiru Adonai, shir chadash. Shiru Adonai, ahead to Lechadodi on page 138.
Or page 20.
We'll sing together verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. It's a custom that as we reach that final verse, we turn around and either face the door, or if we're outside, we face the rising sun. The sun has long since set tonight. But what you might notice appearing in your window if you look closely is the rising new moon of Tevet. In Hanukkah, we just reached, as Lily shared, this beautiful turning point where we have put so much light out into the universe. I like to think that God responds by sending the light back in the form of a sliver of new moon. So we welcome that new moon, we welcome the Shabbat, and we join together in the words of Lechadodi. Lechadodi likrakala v'nei Shabbat lekabala. Lechadodi likrakala v'nei Shabbat lekabala. Shamor v'zachor v'timor echad yishmianu. L'Adonai yuchad Adonai echad u'shemo echad l'shemo tiferet.
So while we're not in our sanctuary where we can greet each other as usual, now can be a moment to wave and send some Shabbat light and blessing across the screen. We've reached the point in our service, our Barhu, our call to worship, where usually we get to call out and have you respond to us that you're ready to pray. But seeing these shining faces, I have a feeling we're already ready. So we are going to turn to Barhu on page 28 in the flip book, or 146 in the hardcover book, and rise in body or in spirit.
Bye. blessing roll into dark. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam v'ha'ed. Baruch Shem Kavod Malchuto Le'olam v'ha'ed. You may be seated. We continue with V'ahavta on 152.
Or 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם בארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. If you turn to page 158, or what page on the flip book, Lily, for Mi Chamocha?
That will be 40.
So if you take a look, if you're not looking, you'll just have to trust me. But there is, as I shared at our musical minyan last Shabbat, a secret message embedded in the first line of Mi Chamocha, made just for this moment. If you look across the top line, the first letter of each word, Mi Chamocha Ba'elim Adonai, spells out Mem Kaf Bet Yud, Maccabee. Maccabee. In fact, as we turn to this prayer, praising God for the miracle at the sea, remembering the wondrous moment of redemption, we are reminded too, especially this Shabbat Chanukah, of the wondrous redemption of our people thanks to the Maccabees. The truth is, we celebrate lots of different miracles. Each of us can choose the one perhaps that we feel most connected to on Hanukkah, whether it's the beautiful story of the oil lasting 8 nights, whether it's the courage and the bravery of the Maccabees fighting for religious freedom, whether it is the miracle simply that 2,000 years later, despite the Assyrian Greeks and so many others who sought to squash out the Jewish flames, here we are, candles burning, voices singing, joining together in prayer and praise. So we'll sing our Micha Mocha, the Song of Miracles, with an extra nod to the Maccabees in gratitude for those miracles that are divine, the ones that are man-made, and all the little ones around us during this beautiful season of light. Micha Mocha, we pray that the light that we are putting out into the world with our menorahs in the window, we pray that it is a sign not just of joy, of our Jewish resilience, but also an invitation to our neighbors to send light back to us, whether it's through Christmas decorations or candles in the window or their own menorahs glowing in response. We pray, especially at this season, that, as it says on the top of page 161 and 160, or in your flip book, Lily.
In your flip book, it's page 42.
We pray this special Hashkivenu, beginning with the words in the English first, let there be love. We pray indeed that the light envelops all across the world. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Hashkivenu, Adonai Eloheinu. Hashkivenu, Shalom. Let there be love. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storm. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storm. We turn now to our tefillah. We'll sing together just those opening words and then take a couple of minutes for our own meditative prayer, either using the words of the Siddur or the prayers of your own hearts, perhaps just enjoying the glow of all of our amplified candles this evening. We're on page
46 or 46 and 164. And just as we pray so deeply for peace, we pray for healing as well, especially in a time of year whose darkness and chill makes us all the more aware of our vulnerabilities, whether those are the sniffles that are really increasing on the subway, or the slippery ice, or the ways in which the weather affects our emotional state. We pray for healing and strength for all people in all places. And so in our community, we are praying for the healing and continued health of Paul Millman, Nancy Hanley, Marlo Wiggins, Dick Stone, Hannah Stampleman, Enid Elton, Jody Kahn, Stanley Tereski, Bob Glassman, Andy Rosenthal, Sandy Warshaw, June Foreman, Paul Wiggins, Joseph Spinelli, Harriet Katz, Samuel Philip Lear, Pat Ryan, Jerry Golner, Ian Spear, Julie Ross, Megan Kearney Bailey, Dan Zimmerman, Aaron Serkman, Tyler Grad, Alan Grad, Joanne Tobin, Evelyn Silberg, Jonathan Glassman, Sherry Benny Shai, Marvin Weiss, Abby Zatoun, Michael Scher, Renee Leopold, Ruth Barron, Isaac Sadegurski, Stephen Stampelman, Judah Luria, Ben Myers, Sam Abrash, Karen Mansler, Joel Brill, Karen Feldman, Josh Olian, and Drew Olian. There is someone who you are holding in your heart tonight. I'll invite you. I know that the muting thing is challenging, but I'll invite you to share their name out loud so that we can hold them in our hearts as well.
Nancy Marcus,
Stuart Parrish, Sue Barish, Artie Siegel,
We
So
pray for all those we named out loud, for the names that we're holding in our hearts, for those of us in need of healing, we join together in Mishaberach. Mishaberach Avotenu Mekor HaBracha Lahimotenu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishaberach Imotenu Mekor HaBracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
Refuah Shlema Umehira. They all experience a complete and speedy healing. So we've got Hanukkah, we've got Shabbat, and we have another holiday tomorrow that I'm very excited to teach you a bit about tonight. Tomorrow night marks Chag Habanot. As Rabbi Frankel mentioned, tomorrow night is also the new moon of Tevet. And Chag Habanot is the festival of the daughters. And because the new moon festival is typically a woman's festival, we bring these together, this new moon of Tevet and this festival for the daughters, into one holiday that begins tomorrow night. And because it is falling during Hanukkah, as it always does, we actually have turned this holiday into a celebration of one woman in particular. And this all began in the North African Jewish communities of the Middle Ages, particularly in Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia, communities that recaptured the story of a heroine named Judith. Now, Judith is a story from the Apocrypha, which is a series of biblical texts that didn't make it into the Bible. So contemporaneous biblical texts from around the same time as our Tanakh, our Torah, prophets, and writings. But for whatever reason, the rabbis decided that they didn't make the cut. So they're not quite holy texts in the same way, but they do give us a wealth of information about our people's history. The book of Maccabees is also in the Apocrypha. And so Judith, while not in the book of Maccabees and not even officially connected to the story of Hanukkah, the rabbis actually brought closer together and decided at some point that, this is a story of heroism. This is a story of oppression. This is a story at around the same time period. Maybe the story of Judith could have happened around Hanukkah. So Judith was a widow living in a town in Judea called Bethulia, and her community was besieged by Nebuchadnezzar, an oppressive king of the Babylonian Empire. And an evil general named Holofernes was overseeing this siege. And after 34 days, the Jews were ready to give up. They had run out of supplies. They were sick and weak and tired. And they decided that in 5 days, they were going to surrender, even though that meant that they would have to abandon their God. They would have to worship Nebuchadnezzar. And Judith wasn't quite ready to accept defeat. So she said to the village elders, wait 5 days. Let me do what I need to do. Don't ask what I'm going to do. But if you wait 5 days, then God will redeem us. And we have to do this so that our children will see our example. And so Judith leaves Bethulia with her handmaiden and arrives at Holofernes' camp and announces that she's renouncing her community. She wants to join his side. And Judith is, of course, very beautiful, as all the biblical heroines are. Holofernes is so excited, and they have a party. She gives him lots of cheese, which makes him thirsty. So he drinks lots of wine, and he falls asleep. And then Judith takes his own sword and cuts off his head. She steals his head and puts it in her maiden's meat bag, and they leave the camp and they put his head on a stake. And from this, the Jews learn that they are free. Holofernes' army learns that they've been defeated, and the Jews are free to practice and live as they desired. Now, because of Judith's example, we have not only this festival of Hanukkah and this festival of Chag HaBanot, the festival of the daughters, but we also learn so many examples. We learn so much from her role modeling, not necessarily about murder and dairy poisoning or whatever her tactics were, but we learn how important it is to stand up for what we believe in, and how important it is not to accept defeat, how important it is to turn to those who can support us, find the handmaidens in our lives who will go with us on journeys. And we learn how important it is to believe in ourselves, even in challenging circumstances. And so Chag HaBanot, in celebration of Judith, becomes a festival of celebrating female power and female bravery. So tomorrow night, when you light the candles for the 7th night of Hanukkah, there are all sorts of ways that these North American Jewish communities have developed rituals around Chag HaBanot. Women and girls get special gifts. So if there are women or girls in your life who you'd like to give a special gift to, I warmly encourage it. It's also a time where women are encouraged to mend bridges and resolve conflicts. Traditionally, in these North African communities, it was the one day of the year that women were allowed to touch Torah. And so I invite all of us tomorrow night to honor the women in our lives, the bravery that they have in whatever ways make sense for them, whether it's some of those rituals or just telling the women in your lives how much you appreciate them, in honor of Judith and in honor of every matriarch who made us this way. We turn now to the beginning of the conclusion of our service with Aleinu. It's on page 586 in your hardcover book or 282 in your flip book. We rise in body or in spirit. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kigoye haratzot, velo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam chalkenu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam, va'anachnu kor'im, umishtachavim umodim, Lifnei melech malchei hamlachim, hakadosh baruch hu, v'ne'emar, v'haya Adonai, lemelech al kol haaretz, bayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo, U'shemo echad. You may be seated if you've been standing. Now, if you have been at services on the fourth Friday of the month for the past couple of months, we at Larchmont Temple are starting to explore new ways of observing yahrzeit, marking memory, and engaging with the memories of people whom we love. And so on the fourth Friday of every month, we're so lucky to have members of our community share about the people whom they're remembering on those Shabbats. And I'm very, very grateful that we have two of them here with us tonight to bring the lives of their loved ones into our space so that we can share in their memory. First, I'd like to invite Ben Zoffness to share a little bit about his grandfather.
Thank you, Lily. Yeah, it's a beautiful service as always. We appreciate you. Good job, everyone. It's a privilege to honor the memory of my beloved grandfather, Norman Alexander, who continues to be the most influential role model in my life. Lily, thank you for providing this opportunity, as simply mentioning the names of those who share this yahrzeit cannot possibly be as impactful as sharing what they still mean to us. When I was a young man, traveling the world with Norman included tented nights in Africa's Serengeti surrounded by Cape buffalo, hikes through the jungles of Puerto Rico's El Yunque with snakes among us, and Shabbat dinners in Israel with armed guards on high alert. Although I was aware of the risks around us, I always felt safe and secure in the company of my grandfather, something that didn't resonate until I grew in age and maturity. Maya Angelou once said, "People will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel." Norman Eisenstein was born in 1914, but after being turned away from numerous employment opportunities due to widespread anti-Semitism in the workplace, changed his name to Norman Alexander in 1955, just as my mother, who joins us this evening, was finishing 6th grade in Mount Vernon. The thought that someone could be turned away because of their religion, but turn out to be one of the most successful CEOs in the history of his industry, spoke to me, even as a young man. His rise to success in business ran parallel to his continued obligations in the Jewish community, as he founded the Jewish Week newspaper, secured Jewish historical artifacts still protected and displayed in the Jewish Museum and within the archives of Columbia University's Law Library. He built beautiful additions to synagogues, including Congregation Kol Ami in White Plains, and did significantly more. Today, his legacy is very much still alive 16 years after he departed. I hesitate to use the word departed because Norman never really left me. As a child, when he asked me to stand on his kitchen counter, close my eyes, and fall backwards into his arms, it taught me how to feel trust. When he asked me to sit in the front seat of a single-engine prop plane with him and fly over the Pride Lands of Nairobi, it taught me to feel courage, as fear is often an illusion. And when he saved my life as a young man, he taught me how to feel loyalty and that certain bonds were unbreakable. Norman's energy was contagious, and he approached life with passion, enthusiasm, and wit. I still recall someone asking my grandfather during a more formal dinner if he wanted to sit at the head of the table. His simple response was, "Wherever I sit is the head of the table." His brilliance was undeniable, and he found a genuine curiosity within every subject he encountered, including law, business, science, technology, psychology, and medicine, to name a few. Norman had an intensely competitive nature, and was unwilling to compromise with himself, unwilling to accept his own inability to solve a challenging problem. He would read as many related books as he could find, or practice for however many hours it took, but he would not concede until he had found a solution. Norman took me everywhere, to his office high above Grand Central Station, the Long Island Sound to set sail, to play tennis on Sunday mornings, his factory for a guided tour, to his home for the holidays surrounded by the smell of my grandmother Marjorie's cooking, a challenge on the ping pong table, to the Hutchinson River Parkway for driving lessons when I was 13. He was always there, and he was always present. Norman gave me something that I can still feel today: gratitude.
Thank you so much, Ben, for sharing of your grandfather with us. And
My
next,
pleasure.
I'm so grateful to have Andy Harrison, who I might add is so committed to this that he joined us even though I didn't
Good evening.
communicate him getting to Zoom on time. Andy, we're so happy that you're here, and we'd love to hear about your brother.
Well, good evening and Shabbat Shalom, and I hope the internet allows me to be heard. Unstable internet connection, but I'll do my best. Good evening and happy Hanukkah and Shabbat Shalom to all of you on this, the real Shabbat Hanukkah. I want to thank our clergy, especially our terrific rabbinic intern, Lily Goldstein, for allowing me to share some remembrances of my older and only brother, Dr. Walter L. Harrison, who died 5 years ago this month at the age of 73, just a year older than I am now. Brooklyn natives who raised us in the small commuter town of Malvern, Long Island, shaped Walter and me in important ways. Our mom's love and unshakable commitment to family included shelving her own nascent professional teaching career to help her brother, also named Walter, nurture his 3 very young children, just over 2, 4, and 6, when their mother succumbed to breast cancer. Mom's selfless walking on me. It's no surprise that Walter chose to foster close marriage to his second wife, Jackie. Our father, who graduated from Dartmouth College in the depths of the Depression, wanted nothing more than his 2 sons to follow in his footsteps. Walter's own, working extremely hard in high school and even drafting his little brother to the cause. To this day, I remember being pressed into service to drill him on his Latin verb conjugations and noun declensions and help run his lines when he had to memorize Mark Antony's funeral oration on which to practice his high school wrestling moves. Eventually decision and did quite well in his pre-med studies and went on to med school, but not without difficulty and stress. He contracted ulcerative colitis as an undergraduate, had to deal with the indignity and discomfort of where he went on to become a well-respected and beloved solo pediatrician, when there was such a thing, communities with distinction. He served a highly diverse patient population, including middle class, working class, immigrant, blue collar, and many financially challenged families, treating all with the utmost respect and professionalism. At various times served as chair or associate chair of pediatrics at several local hospitals, and successfully advocated for pediatric mental health treatment to be covered by insurance in the Bay State. No small feat, national political lexicon. Both accomplished pediatricians, Walter and my wife Adrienne, would often talk shop when we got together, and I felt like a proud Jewish mother listening to the 2 of them discuss their latest professional challenges. Walter enjoyed Jewish study and ritual and was very committee chair. This devotion to Jewish study, he continued in retirement to Nashville services. Walter was a loving and supportive older brother, and in many ways a role model for me. During the summer of 1966, between college and med school, he traveled around Europe, in Greece and Italy and elsewhere. A truly enriching experience for him. 5 years later, when I had the opportunity to study abroad in Italy during my senior year in college, our dad, concerned, probably with good reason of this privilege, was reticent about letting me go. It was Walter who stepped convincing our dad to relent and let me go. That term abroad was, of course, the signal experience of my undergraduate years, and I have Walter to thank for it. My brother had a tough first half of his adult life, surviving the serious illness I mentioned earlier, difficult first marriage, and other problems. Until his final illness, Walter's second children and 6 grandchildren who loved and miss him, as do I. Having done so much for others in his whole life, Walter deserved a long and restful retirement. Although he was anything but rest, it was cruel that he was taken from us so young and before his time. I thank God I was able to go to Nashville and spend a quality time weekend with Walter and Jackie. A month or so before himself, so he'd be around for a lot longer, for the strictly selfish reason that I was simply too young to be the family patriarch. After all, it seemed like only yesterday that I graduated from the kids' table at Thanksgiving. I'm home and Chag Sameach.
Thank you. Oh, thank you so much, Andy. Andy and Ben, the gratitude that you feel for your family is palpable, and thank you for sharing that with us. To the memories of Norman and Walter, we add the loved ones of our community as well. Jerry Levine, Bernard Allen Silver, Marcia Dorfman, Rose Freiberg, Erwin Gutman, Pamela Posen, Isidore Gittleman, Richard Block, Myra Shubin, Sybil Grumet, Jack Lipson, Molly Eisenberg, Sam Schiff, Susan Posen, Max Franken, Thelma Golden, Neil David Roth, Maddie Sackle, Eugene Unger, Kurt Zimmerman, Jay Ring, Myron Mintz, Solomon Kahn, Michael Grumet, Florence Zuckerman, Amy Grotta, Blanche Fine, Albert Sutton, William Silverman, Harold Shear, Israel Friedman, Thelma Fisher, Abraham Wofsy, Esther Hafitz, Emma Wofsy, Shirley Dvorkin, Mario Albert Perez, Isidore Frankel, Edward Weinstein, Norman Alexander, Robert Wofsy, Edwin Trent, Samuel Negrin, Louis Rosenberg, Samuel White, Joseph I. Gorfinkel, Jacob Levin, George Mayo, Rose Gordesky, Rose Zuckerman, Herman Zeiler, Esther Franklin, Sidney Miller, S. Herbert Golden, and Philip Litwer. We also call to memory those who passed in most recent days: Edith Cerulli, mother of Robert, grandmother of Ava and Benjamin; Rita Kreisberg, aunt of Amy Kreisberg; Tom Tugend, husband of Rachel, father of Orly Raymond, Alina, and Ronit; grandfather of 8, great-grandfather of 1; and Stephen Radding, husband of Phyllis, father of Jill and Jonathan, grandfather of Madeline Eliza, Ari, August, and Asa. If there's someone you're remembering on this Shabbat, I invite you to share their name with us as well. Filled with gratitude for the lives they lived and the gifts they shared, we recite Mourner's Kaddish on page 294 or 598. Yikadal v'yikadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach yutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayachon uvyomechon uvchaye d'chol Beit Yisrael, b'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevarach leolam u'almei almaya, v'yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yithadar v'yitale v'yitalal shmei d'kudusha brichu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechamata, damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlam rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imramav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Zichronam livracha, may their memories be our blessing.
Amen. So first of all, a huge thank you again to Ben and to Andy for sharing those beautiful memories and reflections. I want to say thank you to DJ, who's behind the scenes. It's been a long time since we've done this, leading from our homes, from Zoom to live stream. So DJ, thank you for making sure that everybody is able to connect in whatever way is most comfortable. For those who are behind the scenes with us on the Zoom, after the live stream ends, you can stay for a moment so we can greet each other. If you are off in live stream land, we hope that you continue to enjoy the glow, at least of the Shabbat candles. I'm guessing your menorah has burnt down by now, as Lily's has. Just a few small announcements. A reminder that even before this latest weather was anticipated, tomorrow morning Chevra Torah is only on Zoom. Rabbi Serkman will be joining you over Zoom, and there is no morning minyan tomorrow, so we're glad that you were here with us this evening to welcome in Shabbat. It'll be a quiet week around Larchmont Temple. The building is going to be closed for the next couple of days, but of course know that there is always a clergy member on call should you need us or face any emergencies, so don't hesitate to give a ring. And we wish everybody a beautiful last couple nights of Hanukkah. We will end with one more Hanukkah favorite. The words are on page 669 or
365.
And I don't know the second verse as well, but we sang it at Minyan last week and it was very lovely. So I think we're going to try both verses again. Zafnis girls, get ready to dance again, okay? Oh, Hanukkah, Hanukkah, come light the menorah. Let's have a party, we'll all dance the Torah. Gather around the table, I'll give you a treat. Treat us to play with and laugh as you eat. And while we are playing, the candles are burning low. One for each night they shed a sweet light to remind us of days long ago. One for each night they shed a sweet light to remind us of days long ago. Second verse. El Hanukkah, Hanukkah, festival of joy, holiday, a jolly day for every girl and boy. Spin the whirling dreidels all week long. Eat the sizzling latkes, sing a happy song, and not like them tonight then. The flickering candles in a row retell the wondrous story of God's eternal glory. Dance by the candles burning low. Retell the wondrous story of God's eternal glory and dance by the candles cheering glow. Happy Hanukkah, Shabbat Shalom.